while I sit here, you know, relaxing in my tent with my tea ready to boil, my safari hat, my adventure hat on, waiting for herds of wildebeest to come majestically marching past, I can't help but wonder what made Rolex think 50 years ago today, the year that I was born, to make a watch that was for caving and potentially for the North and South Pole. But I think originally it was designed for caving. So let's go back in time just a teeny weeny bit. In 1953, Rolex brought out the Explorer 1, but the Explorer. I'll upset Richard if I call it the Explorer 1. So in 1953, Rolex brought out the Explorer. In 1953, the same year, they brought out the Submariner. In 1954, we already know, they brought out the GMT Master for Pan Am. In the 1960s, they brought out the Deep Sea and went deep sea diving, looking for cockles and Meg. Well, they went down looking for Meg. So they kind of done most of the exploration that they wanted to do when you think about it. Then of course in the 1960s they did the Daytona. So, you know, they'd kind of done, you know, the Explorer up the mountains, they'd done the deep sea below the waves, they'd done the Submariner, they'd done the GMT for pilots. Obviously the Yachtmaster is somewhere in there, but I think that's actually even later still. And that was really just an offshoot of the Submariner. So you kind of wonder what boffin in Switzerland was scratching their head a bit like Stan Laurel, thinking, "Oh, chaps," or however it is they say it in Swiss, "Now, chaps, we could do with another watch to sell, you know, to those pesky customers. What do you think we could do?" Maybe one of them had taken his family on holiday to Britain. I was walking around Cheddar, one of my local areas. There's some caves there, Cheddar Caves, quite famous. Some witches and some dragons and things like that. Maybe someone from Rolex has come back on his holiday and said, "Hey, you know, I've just been to Cheddar. I had some nice tasty cheese down there." This bloke called Hobbs was also just being born down there, by the way, locally. We need to celebrate the Hobbs birthday. There's some caves nearby where he lives. Let's design a watch, especially for the Hobbs, locally to where he lives, and we'll make it for some caves, and we'll come up with some idea around about that. There you go. A Hobbs watch. Thanks, Rolex. A little history lesson on the Explorer 2. One of the earliest Explorer 2s was nicknamed the Steve McQueen, which you may well have heard. But from what I can tell from my teeny bit of research, there's no real evidence that Steve McQueen ever had an Explorer 2. But they still nicknamed the Explorer 2, the early ones, the Steve McQueen for some reason or other. Anyway, the first reference in 1971 was the 1955. So 1955 was the reference for the 1971 Explorer 2. My understanding is that it had the same movement as the early GMT Master watches. So in other words, the hour hand and the 24-hour hand were fixed. So in those days, you could not tell two time zones. You could literally use it for telling you day and night in a cave, but not for a second time zone. 1985, which would have been a couple of years after the GMT Master 2 came out, 1985 saw the calibre 3085 with the reference 16550. This sparked a change for the Explorer 2 in that at this point, so like the GMT Master 2, the hour hand could now be moved independently of the 24-hour hand. So that now made the Explorer 2 be able to tell two time zones. The bezel was still steel and still fixed, so you could still use it as traditionally designed to be used in a cave for misbehaving. At this time, Rolex also brought in a white dial. So the black dial was the first offering from the 1971 to 1985, and then 1985 you had the option of the white or the black dial. And of course it's always been on an oyster bracelet. The 1971 models of the Explorer 2 had a 39mm case. The 1985 model brought it up to around about a 40mm model. 2011 would have been the Explorer 2's 40th birthday. How we remember our 40th birthday. And that came out with the reference 216570. From eating too much cheese at Cheddar, the case became a 42mm case in 2011 from a 40mm case in 1985. That's what happens when you get older, you get a little bit fatter. For those that are interested in this type of thing, the calibre from 1985 to 2011 changed from the 3085 to the 3185 to the 3186. Damn, that's another pin number I've got to change now. I've had this Explorer 2 for 2 years now, and it's easily one of my favourite watches. Some say that it's too large at 42mm. I think it's a perfect size at 42mm because it differentiates it from the Submariners, from the Daytonas and the other watches. It also makes it very, very legible, especially with the big hands, and that makes it particularly good, you know, for being able to tell the time on it. It's a handsome looking watch, whether it's on its original bracelet, or if you do what I sometimes do and switch bracelets out and put on a rubber strap or a NATO strap, or indeed even a leather strap. It looks good on all of those. That is, of course, in my humble opinion. It's accurate for a timepiece of its nature. I'm not exactly sure that it's exactly within Rolex's specs of plus or minus 2 seconds, but it's pretty close. It's a very tough and dependable watch. It's magnetic resistant, it's shock resistant. It stands out like a beacon at night when it's been illuminated. It's a very comfortable watch. It's not particularly heavy, even though it's a 42mm watch. It's not a heavy watch for its size. So if you're able to get one of these, probably getting one at retail without history now is probably very difficult. But if you can find a good authorized dealer and sweet talk them a bit, or get a purchase history, then you can get hold of this watch. It should be easier than the Daytonas and probably the Submariners. Otherwise, have a look on the grey market, unfortunately. But if you do get one of these watches at retail, please do us all a favour and keep it and not sell it on for a profit. You know, there are some people who'd like to buy these watches at retail and they don't want you buying it just to sell it for a quick profit. Of course, please, if you enjoy this video, hopefully my content is a teeny weeny bit different to other people's out there. I know there's a great deal of competition with watch channels, as there are with any other channel on YouTube. But if you enjoy this video, please like and especially subscribe, as this is a brand new channel for me. I really could do with the subscribers. And please hopefully try and watch the video to the very end to get the watch time viewing up. And of course also please comment below. And I will see you in the next one.